Good evening, everybody. So, as I said, I'm so thrilled that you guys are here. It's a really blessing to talk to you. One of my favorite things to talk about is curriculum and hear everybody's perspectives and what works. But before we dive into that, let's open in prayer. Let's just pray Hail Mary and get ourselves reflecting. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. The Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. I always love calling on Mary to guide us in this whole homeschooling thing because she was a mom and she, took care of Jesus. She's a woman, so she gets kind of the emotional battle maybe that we go through in making these decisions and trying to figure out what's best for our family. Couple of things I always like to say before having these kinds of conversations with groups of women is, you'll probably hear me say these again in the next couple of weeks too, but I'm a really strong believer that there's no wrong way to homeschool. I mean, maybe there's like neglect of not doing it at all, but there are many, many, many right ways to homeschool. And there's even many right ways to homeschool for each family. There's not this one magic bullet that's going to solve everything and make it perfect. And there isn't a perfect curriculum or program, even if you make it yourself. So that's kind of where I come from and why I like to have these conversations, focusing mostly on why is this working for you now? So that maybe those listening can be reflecting on, oh, that sounds familiar. Maybe that would be something I can try. Also, to remind everyone that it's really, really easy, of course, in the age of internet and the age of Zoom and conversations, is to compare ourselves to other families. And I think that while it's essential that we gather information, like one of you said in your introductions, it's also essential that we realize God made us all different. God gave us like all these different personalities, all these different kids, and no two families are exactly alike. So I really think that it's probably impossible to pick up exactly what another family is doing and replicate it in your home and have it work. I know in some of my early years of homeschooling, I tried so hard to stick to what someone said I should be doing, or I thought I should be doing based on a schedule or something I read or saw. But I realized really quickly that wasn't going to work and I had to adapt it for my family. So we'll also talk a little bit, hopefully at the end, about how these moms have taken these excellent programs that are just fantastic and adapted them. So, I'm not here to say that one program is better than another, and we're not here to say that you should or shouldn't, try something. It's more about right now in this season of life with the kids God has handed you, what could work and how can you take those resources and make them work for your family. And so that's kind of what I wanted to start with and remind everyone so we can have that perspective going forward. So without that, I am going to pin Rebecca and unmute her. Maybe, let's see, there it goes. Rebecca, test your audio.
I didn't want to be first.
Okay. I'm so sorry. I was like, how am I going to decide? I'm going to throw you out in front of the bus. Hey, you get it over with. No. Well, but I am so grateful that you're here. And I think that when I said, I'll just do alphabetical by last name, what does that do? And I looked, I was like, oh, Rebecca would be first. Colby is one of those that I think is the least out of our little list well known. So I think it is a good place to start, in my opinion. Or at least the least details are known about it. So thank you for being brave.
Okay. A little bit about my family.
Yes, please tell us.
You said, because I read your questions, a little bit about my family. We have 6 kids from 27 to 7. We are previously a Catholic school family. So my kids have traditionally always went to parochial school, and we are homeschooling 4, the youngest 4. But as I kind of alluded to, we are a blended family due to death and an annulled divorce, which is something you don't often hear, which means we have some court requirements, because when you are divorced, your kids become a ward of the state, and or death and your kids get Social Security, the state has more say in your life. So it's kind of one of my pet peeves when people say, you don't need to be part of an accredited program. Well, not everyone wants to put their dirty laundry out there, and they may need to be part of an accredited program.
Right.
So when we wanted to homeschool, we were looking at accredited programs. And we did kind of started homeschooling after a child got sick, went back to private school, went back into homeschooling. And so for us, we wanted an accredited wanted and needed an accredited program. And we wanted it to be a program that would be as seamless as possible in the event that we went back to parochial school because of life changes.
Mm-hmm.
In the military, life changed all the time. We're old, life changes. So we wanted something to be as seamless as possible, though life's not perfect. And so Colby, when I first looked at school, someone referred me to Colby, and I was just simply overwhelmed. They have so much flexibility. They have so much different pricing. It was easier to plug in Seton and go. And it worked with Seton, works fine for a couple of our kids. And it was a complete mess for one of my children. I mean, I thought CPS was going to come to the door every day we cracked open school books. It was awful for that child. And then we did some other curriculums here and there. And then we went back to private school because I was becoming a basket case. And now we're back in and we're with Colby, and it's working for us, for our current situation. What is unique about Colby is they're accredited but flexible, and that probably has more time. Someone can PM me, I can explain it all, because they're very evolving right as we speak. They're expanding their online for K through 5. What it allowed us is I had very different children. I have very much type A personality, couple children, very high accelerators, and then I have a child who's so lazy we dragged him through school. Okay, so we have a mixed bag, and this was the first curriculum that met the needs of all of my children, instead of I found one that met one, something that met another. Because it's flexible, I'm able to bring in the good parts of the other curriculum and still get my accredited diploma, still get my accredited paperwork. So if I have one child that really liked Seton, I could use parts of Seton and still run it through Colby. So that's how it made my family met, and it was one school for transcripts, one school for clarity. What we do use those, because my kids were private school kids and they were middle school on up, my 3 of them. My youngest is only homeschooled. I'm going to talk about them though. They were used to very much structure. They were used to a teacher-led environment. They were used to timelines, deadlines, and they became very self-aware when we have done, even with Colby, some self-paced or traditional homeschool. They work better with structure. They work better with timelines, accountability, and third party. Colby gave us that. And then through feedback from some of the Colby families like myself, Colby finally came out with a flat rate bundle. So that was good. We have used Colby online classes along with Memorial Press online classes. There is some very distinct differences between them. They both use Adobe Disconnect. But Colby has more monitoring of their online classes, and the format of how you watch your grades is different. I have a parent administrator page that's separate from my children's. With Memoria, you go into the same account, you look over the grades. It's just set up different. Memoria Press is more homeschool friendly for the traditional homeschooler because they don't have a set deadlines. So a couple of my kids are kind of struggling there because they give a suggested, this is this week's Latin quiz. We suggest you do it by Friday, but your drop dead date might be 3 or 4 weeks from now. So I'll have one child load up about 25 of them into the drop dead date and try to do them all within 3 hours. Where Colby was more of, it's due by Friday. Oh, it's 5 minutes after the due date, your computer went down. Well, you're still late because you should have probably done it before, 5 minutes before it was due. Cuff, 0. Mm-hmm. Someone died, of course, there's some changes or something serious. I have a couple children that become very self-aware they can't have floating deadlines because it doesn't work. Right. So for those children, It's worked out really well. And another part that was hard is I was coming in from a classical academy, and I was reviewing a lot of great options. We have a lot of great Catholic curriculums, but it was finding the scope in sequence that matched the path my children were already on. And Colby was just one where we didn't have to read the same books we read last year. Their math and science is rigorous. They use Forrester's math. I have a couple kids going into more engineering designing. My daughter, who's in the honors math class and going to do AP, she said she knew math before and knew how to do it. She's always been an A student. She knows math now, which was a distinct difference. So that's kind of how it fits in with us. What I like the most, it's flexible. So my child who's going to become an automotive designer, we've been able to do classes. We send her away in the summertime. She just got a scholarship and admitted into an exterior automotive design school for the summer program. It's one of the top design schools in the world. And by being admitted, she's in line to get a full 4-year ride.
Nice.
If she achieves in most. So I can curtail her diploma, even though they're from the same school, to match that automotive design. And I have another one that might become an attorney, and I can mix it to match with them. So that's the best part. The negative of that is you got to sort through what's it really going to cost you. And that it took me an Excel spreadsheet because I'm visual.
Yeah.
So that's what worked for us. And how did I modify it? Before they came out with a flat family rate, and I was budget conscious, I blended Memoria Press's classes because in the early spring, they had their 10% off sale. I was able to save a lot of money on Latin, etc. But now that they've had the flat family rate, I'm going to all Kolbe classes because their flat rate includes a book credit. So that it made it almost the same price as the other classes. So is that a good summary?
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And we'll, like I said, anybody with questions and stuff will pop in at the end and kind of open it up once we
Perfect.
There. That was fantastic. So let me unpin you, and I'm going to bring Margaret up and unmute her. Let's see. On work.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to speak mainly about Mother Divine Grace. My family, I was old when I had my kids, so I have 2 daughters. One is already graduated and is at Texas A&M as she's finishing up sophomore year as a BIMS major. And then I have a sophomore in high school. What do I like most about our program, about Mother Divine Grace? Okay. We started out kind of, when we started our homeschooling journey, when they're little, it's hard to remember when they're little at this point, but we did kind of an eclectic approach to homeschooling. So we did, basically the core was, and really, you're going to find that, you always have to do math, you always have to do some grammar or reading when they're littler and all that. So we've always kind of done Saxon math, at least in the beginning. And actually we've changed with my younger one, but I'll get to that. And then, just some, so I think we did Saxon math. I think we did use Seton's phonics. And we used some Catholic heritage. We just kind of did mix and match and just kind of looked at what was fun, what was good, what fit with our homeschool at that point. And then we did enroll in Seton for a while, and it was more when my second one, I was like, okay, I need to start homeschooling her, where it was more kind of with just the first one is more, it was more, okay, let's just see what interests you in that. And then I felt like, okay, maybe we need to be a little more structured. And so at that point we were enrolled in Seton. And then when my oldest hit middle school, we felt that we just needed to do a different approach. She's more of a reader. She was more just workbooks and that kind of stuff just drove her crazy. She needed more flexibility. So at that point, again, we were investigating and we started with Mother Divine Grace. So I don't have experience with the very earliest grades, but I will tell you that the approach that MODG takes, I think kind of mirrored what I did in the early years with my kids anyway. And I did that more on a ad hoc basis versus, okay, yeah, formal, whatever. the thing I love the most about MODG is even as the school gets bigger, it's like a family. I have the one thing is that you have a dedicated consultant. I have had my same consultant since we've been enrolled. I have families that I know that are MODG that have been, 10, 15, however many years, have that same consultant, maybe started with just one or two littles, and then, now have kids graduated, have kids that are little. And that personal relationship with your consultant is, I think, really key, because they know your family, they know your kids. You can talk to them about, okay, this kid is interested in this kid is interested in that, and they can really talk to you about ways to modify the program, or to operate within the framework, that accredited framework, but to mix and match some different things to bring what you need to your particular student's needs. The other thing is flexibility. Again, I've graduated one from, and I think, Jenny, you said you're going to have at some point a forum about high school, so I'm not going to talk a lot about high school. I'd like to save it for that. But just as Rebecca mentioned with her kids, you have different kids that have different focuses. And I have one very type A. Since I was 6 years old, I'm going to be a vet, and this is what I'm doing. And, and that's what she's a BIMS major. She wants to go to vet school, but, that laser focus. And, so we had certain classes and certain things she did. She took, MOGG had the flexibility to, she did a AP biology online class with Pennsylvania homeschoolers. But again, that's something that, okay, yeah, we can accept that. And then later on, and of course I'll do this later on, she did dual credit for some of her composition for her core. For those of you in Texas, you have the core requirements that they go to, like A&M or UT, whatever. So she's able to do a lot of her core requirements dual credit, and then have more time, when she got to school, to focus on her major and stuff. And even as they're younger, you really need to focus on the key subjects. And one thing that is new these last few years is that there's actually assessments online for the younger ones at this point. But again, it's low pressure. It's I'm not saying it's low quality. It's low pressure. That it's mother friendly. It's okay. You do it. You do what you need to do, and you're going to educate your children, but the quality of what you're doing is such that, people will say, oh, okay, well, I'm only spending an hour or 2 hours. It's like anything homeschooling, but it's just that focused instruction to their state of development. And I went to grab my book too. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Designing Your Own Classical Curriculum, Laura Berquist. Okay, and this book started out again with taking into account those stages of development and tailoring instruction to that. You do not need, my opinion, okay, and I learned this the hard way, you do not need to have a third grader writing a 4-paragraph book report, my opinion, okay, that it's better for them to learn sequence and storytelling and, memory work, and then retelling. That's the word I was looking for, but building those skills up, and working towards learning how to learn and having a love of learning. Okay. What works well? What works well for us is, for the most part, following the curriculum, and again, making those tweaks based on the needs of I just have 2, but again, I know families with a lot more kids that, again, they can make those different tweaks to the program and bring in different things, again, through dual credit, through even outside programs, or even within the framework of the curriculum, there's 3 or 4 choices. That you can do Lepanto grammar, or you can do easy grammar, or you can do, I think it's, there's a third one, and it's escaping me right now. But whatever grammar program works best for you, you don't have to rigidly say, okay, I've got to do the one grammar program. That's just one example. What do we modify? Okay, so one thing, the other thing I will mention too about MODG with your consultant and all that is if you have a child with special needs, they have special services, and it's only for level 1 special services, it's just going to cost you an extra $35 a year to enroll in level 1 special services. And what that does for you is that gives you, for example, my younger child just this past year, she has health concerns, but then also she was just diagnosed with ADHD. And we did enroll her in special services. And what that does is that gives us some help with, okay, well, how do we modify her? What do we do? How do we work within that framework? And then also from the perspective of, okay, when she goes to take her SATs or ACTs or whatever, you have that backup to say, okay, how do I work on getting accommodations and all that kind of thing? And again, there's a whole range of special needs and all that. But again, that's accommodated within the program too. And even so much as, like, for example, if you have, a child who's has learning delays or has other challenges there. In high school, they actually have special services sections of all the same classes. It's still, ancient literature, U.S. history, all the same coursework, but perhaps instead of reading, the Iliad and the Odyssey, they'll read the children's Homer, but they're getting the same focus in their education. It's just being done on a level that works for that particular child.
Nice.
Okay. And so I think I'm over my time. So
no,
thanks.
we're not really timing. It was just the questions to see. But Thank you. That's fantastic. That's a really great story. So here's where I'm going to try to share screen. I hope this works. Angela Tui is a friend of mine, and she does Catholic Heritage Curricula. And so she talked with me yesterday. We recorded a little quick call to chat about that. So let's get her up here, and hopefully you can hear her. Let me know if there's an issue. Share this. Go full screen. Maybe. Think about it.
Not as much as this last year. Because I was going crazy. Okay. We were on like 6 days a week last the year before, so I kind of dialed it back a little bit. Yeah, dialed it back a little bit. So, yeah. Yeah. Great. So, what do you like most about this? So, probably the fact that it is only 4 days a week. Because we are so busy. And it's all laid out for you, but it's super flexible at the same time. So like you can, like, you need to spread it out because like you have a bunch of activities all 5 days that week, and like you can do only smaller amounts each day because of the time. So I like the flexibility, but at the same time, it's just so enrollment. So enrollment. Yes, just have a full.
Yeah, I could see that would be helpful. All laid out nicely for you. So what about it works especially well for your family?
So we did Seton for kindergarten, and I just felt like it was so much for us. Like, and there are some people that it works perfectly fine for, and that's great. But for us, it was just like, oh my goodness, I got bogged down, and I'm like poor kindergartner, what is she doing? Like, it was so. And the other thing I really loved was Catholic Heritage has a ton of variety outside of their core curriculum. So like you can just hodgepodge whatever your kids' interests are. Like my oldest loves history, so even from like first grade we would do like maps and like that's something she loves to do. And I try to personally, I have found it easiest for my family to start them and end them on something they love, so that like all the stuff they don't care too much about is kind of jammed in the middle. And so, like, we'll say, I'm going to, like, my first grader, she loves science. We're going to start with science. And so then, like, that gets her down there, kind of thing. So, and my oldest, we're going to start with art, whatever it is, just to kind of get them to get going on it. And so they have so many fun, different things for all the different interests. Like, they have gardening things. They have, like, so for, they have sewing things. They have cooking things. So for us, it was just kind of like something that was added to the flexibility that we already loved, plus it had a lot of fun things for their interests outside of the core.
Right.
It's also not super expensive.
No,
It's not super expensive either. So.
That's definitely a bonus.
Also a lot. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, throwing in a question here as far as I know, CHU, as I said, is something where you can purchase the plans, you can purchase the books, you can purchase everything either in a box or you can pick and choose, but it's just purchasing it. Do you feel like that? What do you do when you have questions? What do you do when you're kind of like, I don't know how to do it?
Well, the very first, I was lucky enough that they still went to the IH, and so I was able to sit there and talk to them. Now they don't do that anymore. They have an online interaction thing where you can like click on website kind of and see a few pages of it. They're so super nice. Like, and they're here in Texas actually. It's in California, I guess, but and so you can call them and they're super helpful. And so, and then I have Jennifer Bollinger, who's she's used it forever too. And so if I have any questions about it, she will always help me. But now I've got it pretty down pat. I feel like we've used it for 4 years. So
Right. I just know that's the question.
At first, yeah, if you call them, and like I said on their website, it totally has like things you can look at and actually see different pages of it.
Awesome. Okay, yeah. I just know some moms who are like, but there's no consultant or there's no enrollment or what do I do? And they need that support. So that's good to hear how you found it.
Okay, hopefully that was helpful. And I had mentioned earlier, we're going to have comment threads in the Facebook group in the next couple of days for each of these curriculums. So as you think of more questions, or especially if you want Angela to answer a question, I know some of you also have CHC experience too. So we will go to those. So I'm going to go to Erin and unmute you and see if we can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So my family is younger than some of y'all's. My oldest is in 3rd grade, and he has been homeschooling since kindergarten with Mother Amabilis, and this is the first year that I've had a second student. My first daughter is a kindergartner now, and then we have 2 tag-alongs. I have a daughter about to turn 4 and a 20-month-old. So we have been using Mother Amabilis the whole time. I had always thought that I wanted to homeschool, and Charlotte Mason methods caught my eye from the very beginning. Mother Amabilis is a Catholic focused Charlotte Mason program. So Charlotte Mason was an educational philosopher in England, and she focused on short lessons, laying out a broad feast of education with a lot of variety, not just, the core math and reading and grammar, but a lot of nature and music and art and habits and singing and lots of things, but doing each one briefly, very well, paying perfect attention, or that's the goal, for a short time. She taught grammar and spelling and structure and stuff, at least in the early years, mostly through copy work and through living books. Everything, there's basically no workbooks in a Charlotte Mason education. It's living books written by an author with an interesting point of view, rather than a textbook from publishers or editors. So that's kind of the different focus of Charlotte Mason. So I'd encourage somebody to look more into that. But there's a lot of other good Charlotte Mason programs out there, but when you get into some of the perspective of history and a little bit of the science stuff, you can see a lot of Protestant influence. So the creators of the Mother Amabilis program set out to kind of choose equitable resources, the same high quality living books written with a really strong voice and a narrative from at least a Catholic friendly point of view, and often from a Catholic author. So that's been working really well for us. One of the things that I've enjoyed this year is being able to combine my students for as many subjects as possible. We do, they're 3 years apart, so not real close together, but we do religion and geography and art and music and all of those together in kind of a block of morning time, and then I separate them out for math, and my kindergartners doing phonics and their own history and geography cycles. But I'm looking at maybe combining those as well in the coming years. I know it came up in the last conversation about no consultant. There's no consultant in Mother Amabilis. There is a very active and very helpful Facebook page, which is where I get a lot of wisdom and ideas from women who have gone before me and who've graduated seniors and been through the whole race. What you get with the program, which is completely free, by the way, you get access to book lists, more or less, with descriptions. You get example schedules, but nobody's setting your schedule. You get example weekly plans. They break down each of the readings into a week's worth of work, but the teacher's responsible for daily scheduling. And there's no accountability to anybody. I'm not reporting what my kids do. If I decide to make a substitution, that's up to me. I like that, but I understand that it wouldn't be. You need to go. Go back to bed. It's a bathroom, go.
That's fine.
Yeah. There she goes. That's my kindergartner. So the testing is up to you. The primary assessment tool that Charlotte Meeson uses is narration. So that's the telling back after each reading. In their own words, the child assimilates what they've just heard, and it becomes part of their own knowledge once they're able to tell it back. No projects or worksheets or things like that. As they get older, those become written narrations, which use did something happen? Go. Sorry.
You're fine. You're good. We had a little lag, but I think it came back.
Okay. This year we made a new choice that I sent my kids to school 2 days a week at a private kind of a hybrid school here in town. And so I did have to adjust the curriculum because they cover math and science and art and music and stuff there. So I've trimmed down what I'm teaching and condensing it, but it's turned out to be very flexible. And if I find a book I love, I just bring that in.
That's wonderful. That sounds great. Thank you so much for sharing all that.
Sure.
So those are just kind of snapshots again, and I'm going to go in and unmute everybody really fast so we don't have confusion later. So I know you're thinking questions. I saw something in the chat box. So I think what we'll do is if you guys want to throw questions in the chat box, and then I can kind of call those out as we go, and those who maybe have a specialty can answer that. I saw a couple, or I heard a couple of you mention, and this was mentioned in the group earlier today, someone commented on if your program is easy to combine students or if everybody's kind of doing their own thing all day. you know, and these questions are for all of you, not just the ones who presented, but that's something that we could probably start with is, does anyone feel like their program or whatever they do helps them to combine their students? I know Erin mentioned that. Just wave at me.
Well, I would say like with MODG, depends on, definitely, obviously in the primary grades, it's easy to do that. Because up until about third grade-ish, you know, your science is kind of almost like that Charlotte Mason approach, you know, going out and looking at nature and reading about things and kind of doing little experiments and stuff. And I know CHC was kind of the same thing. I loved their science when, you know, I had that first and second grade age there. They had a lot of really cool science stuff for the kids.
Okay.
So, you know, in that respect, when they're younger, and then it's going to depend too, you know, you're always going to have your core, your math and your grammar and stuff that you're working on. So it's really going to depend how close together the kids are. Now, one thing too is read alouds that, you know, if you're doing your literature, you're always going to be in the primary grades, the littler grades, you know, reading to your kids. And then the retelling and coming back. So again, if they're close enough in age that you can, you know, look at the same literature and stuff, because it's really not going to matter, you know, when if they do, well, for example, like MODG, you know, you have, I think it's American history in 5th grade and then ancient history in 6th grade. Well, it's not going to matter if you reverse those. It really isn't in the long run.
Yeah.
But,
and for
right, did I have it backwards?
Yeah, no, it's American history is divided into
4th and 5th grade, yeah, and then 6th grade is ancient, and then 6th is Egyptian and 7th. Anyway, but
Yeah.
The point is that if you have ones at different stages, you know, it's not going to really matter too much. The only difference is that again, because you're working through those stages, is that at different grade levels, you're doing different kinds of assignments in terms of like initially starting with the retelling, the narration, and then having them dictate and you write it down, and then they copy work, and then eventually that they're, you know, writing it themselves. So, you know, but you could, again, still modify that as well.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I heard when you all were sharing that was just jumped out at me was that the interesting thing, or the one beneficial thing of picking a program is that you get to see the intentional educational development of that education from K through 12 or whatever, because I mean, I think even in our public schools or private schools, sometimes it just depends on the teacher, because every teacher kind of teaches a little bit differently, even if they have a pretty clear path. But it sounds like all of you that were sharing can kind of see the long view of what each year is building upon the next year. In that regard, I really like that. But back to, Rebecca, you were going to share on that?
Yeah, well, with the combining of the subjects.
Yes, please.
Okay, with Colby, with the primary age or the lower grades, they have literature guides, and they've divided them between primary, elementary, and middle school. So depending on where your child's reading level is, you could probably combine them, having them both read Charlotte's Web or do the same Saint reports. The guides are very easy to do. And then, but high school, this is what's interesting with Colby. I have 2 kids doing physics right now. One's a senior, he's revisiting physics. And then my 10th grader, because she's advanced in math and she's very capable of doing physics. Even though they're doing an online class. However, if you're doing the traditional homeschool, you could easily combine them. Because with Kolbe Academy, sometimes the freshman year scares a lot of people, because the rigor is the same from 9th grade to 12th grade. You can do them out of sequence, but the academic level, other than math and science, math and science is different.
Mm-hmm.
When you are doing like literature or history, you don't have to do in the suggested order. That's just a suggested order. So you could have both your students, a freshman and a 10th grader or 12th grader, doing literature of Christendom.
Okay. That's an excellent explanation that they can combine even in high school. That's really cool.
I did want to point out something with Maj that's like a little known tidbit. Even though they're accredited and they have a plan for every grade, if you need to, you can pick individual syllabi from 2 grades up to 2 grades down or to 2 grades up.
Yep.
So if you wanted to combine, art, music, whatever, you can do that and request that you get a syllabus from a grade lower, a grade higher. So it's possible. It's easier to do it in the elementary years. Because basically from actually when you think about it, third grade too is American history. Third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, you're going to be doing American history the whole time. You know what I mean? It's going to be different bits of American history because they separate it. But you can do that too. And like my children, my oldest is in 7th, my next is in 5th, but they're at the same level in math. So their advice says 5th grade. The quarterly assessments that they do online are for 5th grade.
Right.
So Mach is flexible in that way.
That's nice.
But you can, if you want to. And I think some of the people with bigger families, like we're getting there. I just enrolled our 4th in Mother Divine Grace. The consultant has the discretion to help you modify.
Right. Yeah, that's a really excellent point about the programs that do have consultants when you enroll. There's lots of different options, and I put out a chart in the group, was it last week or the week before, that kind of lists the main Catholic curriculums that I was able to find, and there's a checkbox on whether or not there's an enrollment option. I don't know of a program that has an enrollment option that doesn't also provide a consultant. Correct me if I'm wrong. But generally, when you enroll, you get a contact person there that guides you and helps you make those decisions about combining kids or modifying things, along with looking at their assessments and deadlines and things in that regard. So the enrollment part is sometimes, or is almost always optional, but some programs offer it, some don't, but then it includes that consultant that can help you. And then again, on that chart, I know someone asked, I think Valerie asked about the accreditation. Accredited programs are, checkboxed on that chart. And as Rebecca shared, that's what it was, sometimes you need an accredited program for one reason or another, for, a very specific reason, or you just want an accredited program. It's kind of up to you in most states. I don't know of a state that requires an accredited program, even though they may require you belong to an accredited organization. Some of them, but that's just kind of depends on where you are and what your needs are. Yes, Stacy.
Oh, I just wanted to point that out because the 2 years down or 2 years up.
Yeah.
I don't think that's on the general Maj website, that little detail.
No. Yeah, but that's something all the consultants definitely.
The consultant is going to tell you that. Yeah. So that's just one little, advantage of the enrolling.
Right.
You wouldn't know that if you just went to the bookstore and bought the Maj syllabus. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Margaret, is that what you were going to add on to?
And then the other thing is with Maj, you don't have to enroll. I know there's curriculum that, basically if you're enrolled in the curriculum, you're not supposed to share your syllabus. You're supposed to, burn upon reading or whatever, I'm being a little sarcastic, but you can always use, the syllabi are out there for the young grades, it's consolidated for that grade, and then individual classes and stuff too. So they do have the flexibility because Laura just wants the program out there. It just started with the book, and then that grew into MODG. So, they definitely, and there is, you don't have a consultant, but there are, just like everything else, Facebook groups and all that if you are doing the program without being enrolled. And honestly, with real little kids, it may not make a lot of sense if you just have little guys, it might be better in a particular situation or role. The other thing though, that MODJ has changed because it is a family enrollment. They have changed this year that your family enrollment fee is based upon the age of your oldest child. So if you have all littles, you're going to pay a lot less than people that have, one's in high school. But that's just something else to consider.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. There are,
and as one person with one high schooler, anyway, that's cool. It's fine because
Yeah, but that's an excellent point. There are some programs where you can't get the lesson plans or the syllabi unless you enroll. And then you have to, turn them in or not use them or they're only provided electronically, but there are some where you can buy the lesson plan separately and not enroll like Maj. I know I've seen some of the Kolbe lesson plans. Maybe they're not the same as with enrollment or not. I don't know, Rebecca, but I've seen some that you can just purchase the, kind of the guide.
Yeah, you can, well, you can purchase just the guide for one grade, but it often, if you're going to purchase multiple, ends up being cheaper just enrolled. I should note this too is Kobe's changing some of their books, and what people don't often realize, because there's big Catholic families like the La Planta grammar, we have the old books from my older children, but they're going to the new edition. They still have available the old edition. You can get the syllabi for your older books. And I want to say they used Jacob's math before. You can just call and ask them, hey, do you have the Jacob's plan? And you can get them custom for the books you have. It ended up, though it took me a while to figure it out, it ended up being cheaper for me to use Colby than it was Seton. Seton was the easier. Ooh, I saw the price, good, bingo. But then when Colby has so many reusable books that I didn't have to replace books. I think Maj is the same way.
Yes.
Wait a minute, this is cheaper.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. It was kind of like buying a car. Some of them, every part is a la carte. Other ones, like Hondas, are line 1, 2, or 3.
Right.
Just like they mentioned with Mob, we can go up and down a couple grades. My daughter Lily we called her a first grader, but she's mostly second grade work. She was making her first communion and confirmation this year. We had restored order. They let me do second grade religion, so she could do that. And then her church changed from faith and life to a different religious ed program. They're still going to take it.
Right.
So all is good.
That's nice. Yeah, they're flexible and
but their plans, though, the ones that you buy individually are usually the ones they're currently using. But if you have one that, oh, I thought they used the old edition, you can call them up, and if they still have them, they'll let you have them.
That's nice. Yeah. No, that's an excellent point. And I did not specifically search out we mentioned Seton Homeschool is probably the most well-known curriculum provider. I didn't specifically seek someone out for tonight because I knew we had limited time, and Seton works really well for a lot of families. It's very straightforward. It's, I don't want to call it easy. That's not the right word. It's just very straightforward and very
easy
rigorous.
To pick out. I mean, that's what I mean.
Right.
It's easy to go, this is what I get. This is the cost. Go.
Yeah. And just go. But I mean, it's a very good option for many families. And so I didn't mean to just exclude them. I just felt like it needed the least explanation, if that makes sense. Any other questions here that anybody might have and want to throw in the chat or just throw out loud if you're unmuted for these ladies that are here? No.
Science. Can I say something that I like about our science?
Go ahead.
The big debate of old Earth, new Earth. And science is like incredibly hard to homeschool. Colby uses secular science books with the Catholic added on. They do not use Protestant books. None of the books they recommend are Protestant. It's one of the things that drew me to it. It's a Catholic school with Catholic curriculum. In fact, the math is moving, I think, in the lower levels to Sadlier, which is a Catholic-owned company that provide both books. So their view is they have some teachers, just like Momoya Press, my kids have taken some of the science there, that may believe in New Earth or may believe in old. They're going to get presented both. And it's up to you to indoctrinate your child. But they will do science is what you're going to get, the secular version, and then they add our Catholic faith and the church teaching into it. That's, I know, a big touchy.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that's a good
MOD. Oh, yeah, MODG does the same. In high school, you, for example, I have one that's doing biology now, and you read, they augment the biology instead of doing the ecology and the other stuff with the book. They read Darwin's Black Box, which is again a kind of a Catholic perspective, and then you read it's Humani Generis about faith and reason and science and evolution, anyway, and explore that from a Catholic perspective. And then later on in chemistry, and it's escaping me right now, but they read, there's encyclicals and different things in there. And then of course with history and health, they don't do like a secular health class. They read Casta Canubi and Humani Vitae, and then talk about that in the context of the family. But there isn't specifically, in the younger grades, I know that the science is changing, but when you do concepts and challenges, which is an older, it's a secular program, but they do kind of skip over some of the evolution stuff. But, I wouldn't say that they, embrace a young earth philosophy. But again, knowing that, yes, even there are some Catholic families that lean that way or, whatever. But, they don't exclude that either.
Sure. Yeah. I love just the way that the Catholic programs really kind of do some of that weeding for you. They kind of figure out like, okay, well, we don't want to, it's like a guarantee that there's not going to be anything anti-Catholic. There's going to, it's always going to be within the framework of our faith. And I think that's an important reason that we, I lean towards those lists and I lean towards those materials because I know there's not going to be anything that's going to be against our faith, because I think that's really important to most of us who are homeschooling, who are Catholics, is to make sure that, we're giving our kids solid formation. So any other just questions from those who are listening that you wanted answered? We just kind of in summary here, I think Colby and Mother Divine Grace both are the, robust enrollment. You can choose to be enrolled and have a consultant who will guide you through the process. They both have online classes for various ages. They're both been around. I mean, all these programs have been around a while, but they're similar in those ways. Catholic Heritage Curricula that Angela shared does not have an enrollment or consultants. You can purchase the box curriculum with the lesson plans, or you can pick and choose the things you want and you implement it yourself. We were talking in the group too, CHC is set up as a 4-day school week. So that sometimes appeals to people. That's how the lesson plans are written. And then as Erin shared with Modern Amabilis, they give you the plans and the book lists and the instructions and the methodology, and you implement it. And it's all you purchase are the books from wherever you purchase them. There's not a store or a company that's selling those things so that you can get it all, used and save money, or, or brand new to save for all the kids that are going to use it in your family. So any closing questions that you guys might have? I don't want to keep anything to it. No. Any closing thoughts that anyone just can't wait to get out and wants to finish us off?
Rebecca and Margaret brought up, when they brought up the science, I did want to throw in there that a lot of people, and this is kind of like a big deal, a lot of people, they look at the Maj book recommendations and they're like, why is there so much ABECA? Because, ABECA, they're not exactly Catholic friendly. And in DYOCC, because this is a really old book with really old recommendations, there's a lot of ABECA math from like K through 3rd, ABECA science and stuff like that. And when I enrolled, I told my consultant right off the bat, like, I'm not giving my money to ABECA. Like I love Laura Berquist, I love her suggestions, but they need my money and I'm not giving them my money. And she's like, okay. Now that Maj is starting to publish their own books for the elementary grades, they're really kind of phasing that out, I think. They started publishing their own science, their own geography. So instead of recommending, ABECA, science, whatever, Maj has their own book. So I think they're just kind of moving away from that. And I
didn't think that they were still doing any ABECA, that ABECA, it was only just the math in the early grades. I don't know.
It's math, and then I think 3rd grade.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah, but they're coming out with their own now too, like you said, though.
Right. I think like 3rd and 4th grade science or something, and that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, if you bring it up, like, why does Maj use ABECA? Like,
yes, that discussion happens a lot. Well, and I think that points out something else, key to think of is that Mother Divine Grace and Colby both use a mix of their own published books and whatever other curriculum is out there in the world that are, you know, that they're saying buy this, you know, or, you know, we're selling this publisher's book. But Catholic Heritage, for the most part, you're using what they publish. And Seton, you're definitely using what they publish, and not another publisher's book. So that's another thing to just distinguish them and help people, you know, think that through. Awesome. Yeah.
One thing I wouldn't say my first homeschooling experience was a fail. It's more my husband's idea. We're the reverse. You hear all those women saying, oh, how do I get my husband to homeschool? Well, he had to get me to homeschool. And so we're reverse order. I didn't, and you can read all you want. I'm an OCD reader and researcher. I wasn't into education. I was in legal stuff. So when they said scope, sequence, and who you are and what you're going to be, I didn't know. Okay. I didn't know. And I think Mother Divine Grace has it. I know Colby has it. They have shadow days. They have days where you can shadow their online programs. For the older kids, when you want to do that, you can see it. They have samples of what their layout of their syllabus. So even though we can't give out our Colby syllabus, you know, it's the Grail, Holy Grail, you can go online. And they're online. You might have to call a consultant because it took me a while to find them. There is samples of what their syllabi looks like. So you can kind of get your hands a little bit on them to see if that would fit for you. And sometimes, like for me, what worked with the Colby is I do some things homeschool, traditional. I'm the teacher. I do some things online because I figured it out. Last year, I would have had to read over 35 classic pieces of literature of my children, and I couldn't do it. I've read them before, but I'm 50. It was over 30 years ago. I can't do it as deep as they go in classical studies. I couldn't name it. So that's why I had to balance out and pick and choose what's important for me to see them do, what's important for me to farm out, physics. What the lower one was my baby, and I'm more hands-on with her.
Yeah.
Now, they're opening up the live classes. I might let her have one or two. She's done some pre-recorded with other publishers. She loves them, and she wants to feel like a big kid. But I'm still going to be more hands-on.
Sure.
She's baby, my practice grandchild, but that's there. So I think I guess maybe I heard it and I didn't absorb it, is you can't do everything. And it's okay to go, I need Mother of Divine Graces or Colby's online classes or Homeschool Connection because we need to eat. Or I need to drive 6 kids everywhere across the city. It's okay. You're not a failure.
Good. Yes. We'll be talking about online options in another call as well, and giving kind of all the different perspectives and how all those work, or other ways to outsource education. Before we close,
just real quick. And MODG does have middle ground, if you will. They have a full, the learning support, and then they also have what they call teacher services. And I know I'm big on teacher services because I don't like grading writing. I'm a math person. So for all the history and religion, I've always used teacher services from 8th grade on to grade those assignments. Because guess what? They've graded 50 of those that year, and so
it takes them 10 seconds to look at it, and that's a good point. There's lots of options out there with those programs. But Mary Ann wanted to know if anyone had heard of Classical Liberal Arts Academy, and it is on that list that I created because I found them online and had never heard of them, and they seem relatively new. And all I can say is that I did a whole lot of research trying to find somebody that says something about them, and I couldn't find anything.
Right.
So I mean, has anybody on here heard of anybody that uses Classical Liberal Arts Academy? It's all online. It's not like video classes. It doesn't look like any kind of live classes. It looks like they'd click through and do things virtually. But I would love if you contact them, Mary Ann, and they give you any kind of information. I'd love to hear more about them, but I just haven't. It was like crickets out there in the internet. We're trying to find all my tricks, trying to find somebody that uses it. But I think they're new, so maybe they can direct you to someone that some of their families that have used it. I don't know.
Okay.
Anything else? No? Nobody's given me a yes, so sorry. We'll put it in the group too. Oh, Stephanie?
I was just going to say, I'm sorry, I was late. So tell me if you've already answered this, because I've always done St. Thomas Aquinas Academy. So far, for 2 years, we've done that. And one of the other gals was just talking about like knowing your limits. And I love it for my little kids because I'm very hands-on with them. I love like how they combine everything for them, and it's just really great. But I wanted for my going into 6th grader, I wanted him to have something that he could actually look at a syllabus himself and like know what he needs to do each day and do it. And so that was my question about Colby, because that's what we're leaning towards, mainly because my husband, like, that's his saint, and I have a kid named after him. And so is that something that Colby at the 6th grade level, like they would open their syllabus and they could do it all themselves and turn it in and everything there?
Okay, so are you asking for the traditional homeschool style, but it's more child-led? Is that
right? Right.
It depends. Probably they do have a syllabus. I did not have a 6th grader yet, but I had a 7th grader last year. She was able to go through her syllabus. Our syllabus are kind of like a hybrid between Catholic Heritage Curricula and Seton's. Seton's are very detailed, very retailed. They have some beautiful parts to their syllabus I've seen in the past. Colby's is less wordy, and they have a part to check off and do the grade. My 7th grader was able to do that. However, she's a very academically oriented. My son would not. Okay, so they went. Now, they do have other options for, there's the traditional homeschool, and there is the grading, where he can have someone else grade it up to so many pieces for your family, so he can submit the work, or you will take the work and submit it, and they'll do the grading part for you. And then there is the pre-recorded online. I haven't done those. We're going to try it next year because it came free with the online family rate. And then there is that the online, which is almost like sending your kid to private school, but just out of your home, and it's not every day. It's just a couple days a week. So I would really say it kind of depends on your child. If your child needs a lot of instructions, if they have any special needs. My child who was able to do it is highly academic, taught herself to read at 3 years old. She's just academically oriented. That's her sports arena. So I can't broadly.
Yeah. Well, Stephanie, I can throw out that in my experience personally, and just with other moms, when they're getting to that level, I think you can take any curriculum and present it in a way that a kid can just walk off and go do their work. But it's going to take some upfront work from mom to set it up that way, and maybe some training on what they do for each subject. So like I have, starting in 3rd or 4th grade, there's a chunk of work that my kid can go off and do by themselves, and they have a checklist that I created that says what they do, and they know what to do for those subjects. So, I mean, I'm sure,
and that's
Colby
what
can
I'm
be
doing
done.
now.
Yeah,
that's what I'm doing, and I have 3 more kids come under him, and I kind of want to like shove him off.
Yeah,
but I love him, but
it just takes the upfront, like it would take the upfront looking at it and deciding, is this something I can hand to them, or do I need to modify it for that?
If you go onto Colby's site and like you might need to walk out with a Colby person, there is a section where you can see samples of 6th grade curriculum, and you can
that's what I want.
If that is something I mean, it's pretty easy. It's like check the box. There's the box to literally check, and then I would go through and sit with her once a week, and we would grade. Or if she had a question, of course, if we lived in the same house, she'd ask me. But again, that's the thing with homeschooling, is when they said child-led, I have a child, we child dragged through school.
Yeah, it depends, definitely. And I think Margaret's trying to show us, Maj.
Yeah, so I don't know, this is, trying to hold it. This is like the computer generated list, right? so that you can, every day, you can go in there and work with your syllabus and do a daily list. And you can do this for any grade. So I don't know if Colby has that same kind of capability. Oh, it's not showing up very well, is it? So see if I can.
Maybe you can take a snapshot and throw it up in the
that'll work too. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Okay. But, just that, but you can do that again, like Jenny said, with any syllabus, and just make them, they used to have, like Seton had their daily planners, and you could do every day, and you could write all their assignments and stuff. And I know even like when we did Seton, I'd just take the daily assignments and then just write it in one list for every day for them. So, and then this does it automatically for you, and you can manipulate it and do it, however you need to.
Yeah, good question. I like your question, Stephanie. Maybe that's something also that can go into that when we talk about secondary education, kind of that grades 6 through 12 and that increasing independence and how different moms do that. We can throw that into that conversation. Well, awesome. Well, I am going to end our call so that we can respect y'all's time. And I really want to thank everybody for coming, and especially our Spotlight presenters for sharing what you've experienced and what's worked for your family. And I hope that the rest of you maybe heard some things that that help you make decisions and help you move forward, and just help you share with others, because we got to help each other on this road, because that's the best thing. We will be talking, our next Zoom call is on Tuesday evening, talking about how to pull together different resources to make your own curriculum. And so that's kind of a different conversation. And if that's something that might be helpful to you, then I invite you to join us then. And then we'll be moving into subject-specific conversations about why people like different particular resources for each subject. So we're starting with religion because it's most important, and then we'll do language arts and math and science and history, and kind of see what is it that's best in your mind for different kids, what works best for different kids. Because as you've heard, even in these programs that you enroll in, there's often options, and it can sometimes be overwhelming without talking to someone who's used that material to see what worked best. So thank you, ladies, for coming.
Hey, thank you.